Hello and welcome back to Rogue Trader. Last time we got ourselves a navigator and we also got ourselves another level. So we got a ton of level ups to do. We got some story time to do with our navigator, see what they have to say, and then we got to explore the rest of the system. So, I guess we should start with leveling up because that's probably the easiest thing to do. So, let's level up. Oh, also, we should have a look at Cassia just from a character perspective as well. Oh, and I've been told that these apparently never change for companions. So all my thoughts about like, oh, maybe we could turn them into this or that. No. I mean, the character could have a change of heart and they could go in that direction, but it's not going to be reflected on their summary, apparently. So that's a little weird, but, you know, whatever. I guess this is only really for the like a brief kind of idea of who the character is, and then also I guess so that you can get your abilities off of it, but it isn't really for, well, anything else. So let's have a look at Cassia. She's 0 in everything. She's got 0 dogmatic, 0 heretical, and 0 iconoclast. She is a blank slate. Okay. Biography? This character's biography is not available. Our other character? Yeah, okay. Maybe we just don't know. Maybe we need to speak with her a bit. Okay, anyway. Level up time. Level 13. So this is our last one before we get our final ability on here. Interesting. Characteristic. Well, we could go weapon skill, and that does make a lot of sense. But hear me out. Even if we're only going a single point more in ballistic skill, it's worth it because if we leave here, this gives 15 ballistic skill. So we actually want to be on an odd number because when we add 15 to it, it will give us 2 bonuses instead of 1, which is a little odd, but there we go. So ballistic skill. And then we get a common talent. Okay. What have we got down here? These are interesting. These are all the surefire plan ones. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. If a hive character starts their turn adjacent to an allied character, that hive character gains +2 movement. If they end a turn adjacent to allies, they all gain +2 movement on the next turn. So if you start your turn next to an allied character, that Hive World character gains +2 MP. If a Hive World character ends their turn adjacent to allies, they all gain +2 MP. Okay, so I think it's saying if we start next to an ally, we gain 2 movement points. If we end next to an ally, they will gain 2 movement points. Okay. Weapon personalization. All ranged weapons dealing physical damage have +1 damage, +5% armor pen, +1 rate of fire, and -5 to recoil. Outnumber is useful as well. It makes melee superiority better. We could give ourselves an advanced, or we could start working towards advanced skills in something like logic, so we can re-roll failed skill tests. But for that, we need the basic skill, right? Maybe we go base skill logic and an advanced skill logic. Because we're the only character who's doing logic. We have huge bonuses to it, right? It just makes sense, actually. Let's go base skill logic, and then we can go advanced skill logic later, which allows us to reroll failed checks, and it means that logic checks are basically always passed for us. Yeah, I think that actually makes a lot of sense. Let's do that. Right. Cassia, we'll leave you for a little bit. Heinrichs. Hello. What do you do? Well, you get a characteristic. Agility is probably not bad, although we were going to make him a strength guy. But I think agility is good if we want him to continue to dodge. Toughness is okay, but toughness is kind of what we're building Abelard into. Willpower +1 means that you have better ability to withstand the warp, and increase the chance of resisting negative effects of psychic powers. That would give you an extra plus to that. Okay. And weapon skill obviously makes you better at using a weapon. Okay, there's a couple of options. I think we take will. I actually think willpower. That gives us a nice round number there. Yeah, and round numbers are good because it's an extra +1. Right, to the bonus. Here, many things. Now I'm trying to remember what the good ones are without seeing the stars next to them, or the ones I wanted. I do like force weapons deal extra damage, because we do have a force weapon, and dealing 10% more armor pen is nice. Okay. I think we take Blade of Light, because I want it. Yeah, because we've, it's one that we're going to want eventually. I don't think it's useful now. Well, I think it's useful now, but I think it's not as useful as it will be in the future, if that makes sense. So let's grab it. It also locks us into force weapons, which might be bad, but also means that we are more focused in terms of what weapons we give them. Which I kind of like, being focused on what exactly we want a character to do. Even if the focus is bad, being focused is better than not being focused. Right, this guy's perception is god-awful. I'm going to make no efforts to improve it. I'm giving him ballistic skill. Easy. Next one. We gave him a plasma weapon. We could go further into that. We could just make him better. Like, we could make it deal 2 extra maximum damage. Which is nice. Will not die. Increases wounds by half of a character's level. It's not amazing yet, but like the longer we get into the game, the better this one gets, obviously. So, like, it's always worth thinking about. We could make his tech use better, but like he is actually even like he's insane with tech use anyway. Like I suppose we could take advanced skill immediately. That would give him the ability to re-roll the failed checks if he ever had one. That might be okay. You know what? Let's go into this. Let's give him this as well. Let's maybe take some out of combat stuff for this particular level up. So this now means that he gains a ton of tech use, which means his tech use is going to be very high for like this point in the game. So you'll likely pass everything automatically. And then this one will give him a reroll if he doesn't pass it. So I think that seems good. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Argenta. Also, I'm not leveling based on class, I just realized. Which I was previously, but I guess I'm not anymore. Alright, or at least not right now. Okay, what do we want with her for talent? I'm not entirely sure what we want with her. Maybe bolt weapon expert? I mean, she does use bolt weapons. Increases armor pen. I don't know if that's always our problem. Make her better at dodging. Characteristic training, so we can improve these skills. What's she get on the other one? Her other one is just a skill increase. Okay. We could increase her ballistic skill by 5, which would be nice. The Emperor protects, 3% chance to dodge any attack. What's this based on? That's her willpower. Okay. These are willpower bonuses. Yeah, so those aren't really what we want to do. Under 40% wounds, we gain bonuses. Yeah, we don't really want to be in a situation where we have that as... Like, this one's fine, but the problem with it is that you have to be under 40% wounds, which means that you've gotten a situation where you are under 40% wounds, which is, like, that means you've done something wrong, to me. Anyway. When an Imperial World character is affected by an ally's non-damaging ability or affects an ally with such an ability, the resolve is increased by that. Okay, so that's a fell bonus thing. I'm not that interested. Also, the other negative thing about this, right, is because this only activates when you're below 40% wounds, not only did you do a bad thing putting yourself in that position, you were more likely to put yourself in that bad position because you didn't have another bonus that you could get here, right? Like, you could, in theory, instead of this, get a bonus which would then allow you to not drop below 40% wounds, which then makes that pointless, right? It's that kind of thing. It's kind of weird. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm between bolt weapon expert and maybe characteristic training. Let's just take bolt weapon expert. I mean, we use bolt weapons. That makes sense. And then we take one of these. So awareness is probably the best one to take because I think it's shared across. I think everyone gets a perception roll. Yeah. Sure. Why not? That sounds reasonable. Adira. Characteristic. Not intelligence. Well, maybe intelligence? I think ballistic skill is probably better. Yeah, probably ballistic skill. Let's do that. Yeah. Ballistic skill. That seems fine. And then here, I don't know. We already took Psi rating 1. I just want to double check that I'd done that because I couldn't remember if I'd done it or not. Okay, so none of those make a lot of sense. What are these? Edge of Fate. At the beginning of every combat, the Psyker's allies gain 15% critical hit chance. First critical hit removes this effect. That's still pretty good. Allies under the effect of at least one psychic power gain additional 5 plus 2 times Psyker's Psi rating, so that'd be 9 armor pen. Every 9th successful dodge or or parry by the Psyker and their allies combined grants the Psyker additional AP. Maybe I'll take Edge of Fate. I like that one. At the beginning of every combat, the Psyker's allies gain 15% critical hit chance. The first critical hit removes this effect. Chance to remove something from combat very quickly. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. And then Abelard. Characteristic. I will take weapon skill. And then here. What's Combat Master? Enemies gain no melee superiority. Yeah, but we saw a better one that we could have taken from that, which somewhere in here. Or we maybe already took it. I know I love this. After saying that, like, actually, it was really kind of bad as an ability, I realize I've already taken it. Wonderful. As affected by Brace for Impact, do not suffer the negative effects of this for the entire combat. I should probably use this more often then. Will this give us this? Would give everyone plus 5 toughness. Stronger together is fine. I think it's okay. Could make his carousing better, because that's what we do. Could also make his weapon skill better if we wanted to. Yeah. I think that could be good. Increases parry, reduces enemy parry and dodge chance. So we could put that up a little bit, which give us a little bit more parry. It's not terrible. Yeah, I like that. I mean, we could also increase our wounds. Nice thing about increasing wounds, even though it's not going to be amazing, is it does mean that the hitting the 50% wounds to actually get an injury, like, it pushes that number up as well, which is nice. Could take that. It will not die. Increases wounds by half of the character's level rounded up. Yeah, so you would get 7 extra health. It's alright. I think I'm going to take that. Let's take the extra plus 5. That's fine. Just thinking back and forward on that one. Right. Then Cassia, who we know nothing about. So I guess what we need to do is go and speak to Cassia, see if we can find something out about her, and then, you know, then we'll see what we're doing with her. This way? This way, and then down here. Okay. Right. Oh, she's got a valet. Uv had his tongue cut off, just like the rest of the lesser servants of House Orcelio. Hello.
Words cannot describe how boring the bridge is without our stimulating conversations.
Tell me about yourself.
I am a part of House Orcelio, an ancient dynasty of the Navis nobility. Since time immemorial, our family has served to advance knowledge, pushing at the boundaries of the dark unknown. The Starway Atlas contains 2,843 routes that chart the sectors of the segmentum obscurus and reach all the way from the Koronus Expanse to Holy Terror.
In my defense, nobility would not be my first way of saying that. But okay, I'll listen in silence, I want to know more.
And uniting the Imperium's thousands of worlds. House Orselio is bound by commercial pacts to houses Galeatis, Ortina, Drotus, and... There is a dark blue knot tightening on your neck, Lord Captain. I can see my reply is not satisfying your thirst for knowledge. What is it you desire to hear exactly?
Allow me to ask you a few personal questions.
You have my permission, Lord Captain.
So you've never lived anywhere other than Uric 5?
Hardly. According to the chronicles of the house, I was born on one of the Orselio worlds. What was it? Please forgive me, Lord Captain. My childhood memories are too vague. Sometimes I dream about the colorful birds that built their nests in the garden, or the servants dressed in purple livery, or the blue fog that rolled over the lowlands behind the palace. But everything is covered in a rosy haze. Perhaps it is my imagination, not my memory, that is painting these pictures.
Tell me about your life on the station.
My stay on the station was wholly dedicated to preparing me for my future duty. Astromancy, astrography, numerology, the histories of my house and the Imperium, as well as other disciplines. For many years, dozens of instructors tirelessly prepared me for my destiny. And once a year, Great Regent Alronto would come to the station. He would entrust his beautiful vessel to my command, so that I could master the practical aspects of our art as well.
Did you have friends, someone you could turn to for a simple conversation, not a discussion of yet another lecture?
The Regent gave me a bird from a sunlit planet once. I tried to befriend it and make it sing, but for some reason, it refused, and died soon after. The instructors were too respectful of my duty to my house to waste precious time on idle chatter. Aside from them, there were only servants on the station, and you know they have their vocal cords removed, so they cannot break their vow of silence. And since the subject has been breached, Lord Captain, why do you not follow this honored tradition? Your decks are so garish. Apologies, I meant noisy. The rabble don't just chatter. Sometimes they shout and even sing. Why do you allow such a lack of restraint? Rogue traders are highborn, are they not?
Okay. Let's see what we got here. We can just be like, yo, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go and do it. I don't think we're going to do that. Let's say you may find it difficult to believe, but the practice of depriving servants of their voice is not particularly widespread outside House Orselio.
Please forgive me, Lord Captain. I was sure it was a sacred tradition made sacrosanct by the ancient vows of obedience. I expect more surprises will be waiting for me outside the walls of Uric 5.
Yeah, your third eye, do you always conceal it?
The Navigator's open eye is baneful to whoever the warp's ruinous shine falls upon, and therefore it is the symbol of our power. We are the guiding stars of humanity, found worthy of an uncommon gift, and one of the duties that we bear is to guard our eye, even from wayward glances that may bear evil. Besides, I am aware that lesser servants of the Imperium may find our appearance repulsive. The Navigator gene twists the features the rabble are used to seeing, and the magnificence of our role cannot be grasped by their feeble minds.
I think we just be blunt. You do not look repulsive, Cassia.
Perhaps my appearance does not terrify you right now, but this will not always be so. The Navigator gene is unstable. My body is going to change over time. And only the God Emperor knows exactly how.
In genuine terror, Cassia presses a finger to her lips as if belatedly trying to stop the words from tumbling out. What does it feel like to guide a vessel through the warp?
It may be difficult to describe. You see, every navigator perceives the warp differently. My mentor, Great Regent Auronto, always described his travels through the Imperium as a journey through a vast wood with countless paths. And I, assisting him in the first voyages, futilely tried to follow his example. But the wood would not reveal itself to me. But everything changed when I found my own key to this mystery. You see, I've always brightened up my rare moments of leisure time by painting. You may recall there was a workshop in my chambers. As soon as I imagined the warp as a blank canvas, an indescribable feeling came over me. I moved the brush, going deeper and deeper into my own painting. Visions were hidden within the vibrant colors of my palette, and something inside me knew which should be brought out and which should be left behind. I woke up several days later, after the voyage was safely complete.
Okay. I noticed that your love of painting is reflected in your speech as well. You associate so many images with hues and colors.
The Emperor graced me with a gift. I can see inner life in addition to the mundane. You cannot know that a fruit has rotten from the inside until a blade slices it in two. I can see the rot from far away. It roils like swamp mud, oozing through the bright peel. Anger and boredom, sadness and joy. Everything that people shut away inside themselves is revealed to me like colors on the canvas of my world.
Okay. Why don't we talk about something else?
You will hear no objection from me, Lord Captain.
Tell me about House Orselio.
As the only voice of our family on this vessel, it is an honor. As long as your questions are courteous, I will answer every one of them.
Let's ask the one that we had to do a check on first. Although it wasn't a very difficult check by the looks of it. Is the Orselio prophecy system named after your ancestor?
You are shrewd indeed. My ancestor charted that route while fleeing the enemies of humanity. They say the Emperor himself was his guide, because the warp expelled their vessel without a single loss. Unfortunately, the lips of those who relate this tale seep with disgusting green hubris. I think Colleen Orselio was simply a skilled navigator.
Okay. I take it House Orselio has a rich history.
Oh, yes. The navigators of the house came to the Koronus Expanse fairly recently, a mere 208 years ago. Before that, our ancestors expanded the borders of humankind's dominion for the glory of the Emperor, blazing trails to different corners of the galaxy.
Who rules the house?
Just as a rogue trader stands at the head of a protectorate, a Novator heads a navigator house. It is the Novator who decides where to look for alliances and which path their bloodline is destined to tread. As for our house, the transfer of power to a successor is currently underway. In the meantime, Great Regent Auronto Orselio is ensuring the stability of the house.
You lived in seclusion on a closed station until Felix committed a sabotage. Then you must be the Novator's successor.
So says Regent Auronto. Nothing is decided yet. Some people in the house become enshrouded in rolling grey clouds at the thought of me becoming the Novator. But even more are bound with dull leaden chains. They think I am not ready for such a burden.
With your permission, I would like to talk about something else.
By all means.
What does your special sight reveal?
Sister Argenta shines like a guiding star, inspiring resolve in those around her, seemingly inexplicably. However, I see a dark and ugly fog billow behind her, contrasting sharply with her shining light. It burdens the Sister of Battle. It drags her down. Yet Argenta herself is hardly aware of it.
Okay, so this must be the what do you think about our companions question, just done slightly differently.
Seneschal Viserion is among the few whose colors are a pleasure to look at. Whenever the Seneschal speaks, heavenly crystal clarity spreads around him. And whenever he is angered, dark blue clouds condense over him. And in his rare moments of joy, a pure gleam of sunset pink caresses the souls of those near him. Out of your entire retinue, Lord Captain, he is the only one I would trust with my life.
Well, that's very good to know.
The esteemed Magus Hanuman is shattered like a beautiful stained glass window into a mosaic of colors. His bright, beckoning hues are mixed together in complete disarray. I must confess, it perplexes me. Normally, scarlet and steel are all that fills the heart of a servant of the Omnissiah. Behind the cobalt steel of his thoughts, behind the cold, faded gray of his emotions, an ember, the color of amber, glows in Master Van Calox's soul. So bright and warm, one is tempted to touch it. It is sad that the interrogator seeks to drown it with his own hands in the bottomless blue of duty. Sad indeed, but I can relate.
Okay.
Idira's emotions are like a maelstrom, bright, unbridled, enveloping her form like a wondrous kaleidoscope of colors. And as dangerous as a twisting warp storm. The riot of colors hides the truth from my eyes. What exactly is driving this woman? Is it her own will, or is it the Imperium, Lord Captain?
This is where I must beg my leave.
I have enjoyed your company. Thank you for the conversation.
Interesting. Okay. So, a little view into our companions there and a little view into her. Now, do we have more on her now that we've spoken to her? Nothing here. No biography. Interesting. I guess because we already know everything about her from her quest, in theory? Huh. Interesting. Okay. Well, what is she good at? Well, she's got really high perception and willpower, right? That much we know. She also has an unknown origin advancement. That's weird. Homeworld is unknown, data deleted, but it gives her a bonus. Then Navigator, which gives her a glimpse of fate. Target gains 5 times the Navigator's willpower bonus percent, increased hit chance on their next attack, dodge on their next dodge, and resistance on their next resistance test. Each of these bonuses disappear independently from each other after being successfully applied. The Navigator decreases Veil degradation by minus willpower bonus points. All allies gain plus willpower bonus deflection against all warp damage and damage from psychic powers until the end of the Navigator's next turn. That's pretty big. Alright, a way to reduce Veil degradation. The target ally gains 4 times the Navigator's willpower bonus to their willpower and toughness until the end of combat. This ability can only target allies that have at least one melee weapon in their weapon sets. That target immediately gains an additional turn in which they only gain the ability to charge. Okay. Vigil beyond time. The first use of any on any target marks it with the under the Navigator's watch effect. So the enemy targets must pass a willpower resistance test to avoid this. The second use returns the target to a position where it was during the first use and restores its wounds to the state they were during that time. If this cell is occupied or unreachable from their current position, they will move to the nearest closest cell in the direction of the Navigator. The Navigator deals from 1 plus 2 times willpower bonus to 6 plus 4 times willpower bonus damage to an enemy. The enemy must pass a willpower resistance test to become immobilized until the start of the Navigator's next turn. Immolate the soul. Okay, I'm reading through these, but I'm also like, I feel like... Oh my lord, there's so many. Yeah, I feel like these are probably ones to read through when we do the level up. I just suddenly realized we're not getting all of these abilities. But that is quite a lot of abilities. Okay. Cool, and we're an officer, which I don't think we have. We don't have an officer, so your keystone is bring it down. Officer immediately grants an ally an extra turn with 2 action points and no movement points. The ally is under the effect of voice of command and kills an enemy before the end of the officer's turn. The ally gains a 1-time additional 2 times officer's fell bonus momentum. Fellowship is not 0 on this character, which is interesting as well. This one forces an ally to fully push themselves, increasing their characteristic bonus by 5 plus 2 times the officer's fell bonus for 1 round. So in our case, that would be 13 for 1 round. Additionally, all the officer's abilities can be applied to the target of voice of command from any distance. A character who becomes target of voice of command cannot be targeted again for 2 rounds. The ultimate ability is Finest Hour. That's an ally additional turn with full AP and MP. Okay, and there's no attack limit. And then the negative version of it, Officer's Fellowship is halved until the end of combat. Okay. Interesting. What weapons do you use? Currently, you use a psychic, or you use the Staff of House Orselio, which gives castigating. Enemies targeted by the Navigator's powers gain -5 penalty to all characteristics until the end of the Navigator's next turn. We did get a couple of staffs here, actually. Orselio Guardian is the same, except as a buff to allies instead of a negative to enemies. Okay. Now your secondary is an auto pistol. Well, your secondary is now an arc rifle, but mainly because I kind of want to use the arc rifle. Increases range of officer archetype abilities by 1 cell. Well, okay. That was easy. 5 to hit chance, 3 to critical hit chance. Have you got, you do have a helmet on, right? Yeah. Okay. See if anyone's missing a helmet. You are also missing a helmet. I get the feeling it might actually be more useful on you, so let's give you that for right now. What else have we got? Anything else in here? Lower Imperium tests depend on fellowship instead of intelligence. I mean, okay, if only if we're taking you that path. Fire grenade, we can just take that out of your inventory for now. Okay, I think that's fine. And then you're currently using an armored body glove. Oh, we also got these. Every time the wearer deals damage, target's weapon skill and ballistic skills reduced by 5 for 2 rounds. That seems really good for you, but what have you got on already? You got running gun bonuses. Anyone else do damage to like multiple people? Not really. Well, I guess you can have them then. Cool. That's fine. Okay. We can do better than the body glove, I'm sure. That's the wrong thing. I want to go to cargo. And then I want to go to armor kits. See what we got. So this is better. So we got 20%. 20% the best I got. I got the feeling I had more. 30 but with a dodge penalty. Thought I had like a 25 no dodge penalty. I might not. I might only have a 20 right now. If I don't see it, I'm not going to spend all day on it, but let's see. No, we don't. Okay. Well, I'll take a 20. So let's split this. Okay. Take that out here. Let's equip that. Then we can send this back to, or we can add that to cargo. Cool, we'll keep send that to cargo. We don't need 2 staffs of House Orselio, so we'll send that to cargo. The Guardian one we might want to keep. Right. Type. Let's do a different sort so that it has to sort it in again. That's fine. Right, there we go. That's what we're working with so far. Okay. So what we're working with is really high perception, really high willpower. Willpower and perception seem to be very important. Willpower is important for a lot of her navigator skills. Perception... Actually, perception's not that important for her. But she does have a very high perception. And then fellowship is probably something we want to work in. Okay. We have an idea. We don't really have anyone who does fellowship currently, so yeah, let's see what we can work with here. 10 ranks available. It's just a lot of ranks, right? First time the officer targets an ally with an ability for the... Whenever the officer targets ability... Let me try this again. Whenever the officer targets an ally with an ability for the first time in a round, that ability gains +5 temporary wounds. That ally gains +5 temporary wounds. I don't know why my brain was unable to read that. Okay, characteristic. Well, obvious choice is willpower, right? Follow up with a common talent. So this is where we have all of these talents. The course untraveled. Whenever the navigator uses a navigator power that hasn't been used this combat, gains 2 perception till the end of combat. Enemies damaged by the navigator suffers 2 times the navigator's perception bonus. Alright, so there's perception coming in here. % additional damage from warp damage. This bonus damage stacks for each hit. Every even, second, fourth, etc. turn, the navigator gains an additional action point. Every odd turn, the navigator gains additional perception. Every enemy the navigator has in their line of sight has its dodge and hit chance reduced by -2 times the navigator's perception bonus. That one seems really good. Navigator path powers deal +1 additional damage for every 5 bonus characteristic the navigator currently equips staff. Castigating, infusing, and devastating count as characteristics for this talent. Whenever a creature in combat gains an extra turn, the navigator gains a stacking +5 bonus to willpower. Navigator makes all resistance tests with their willpower if it is higher than the base characteristics for such test. If the navigator's willpower is higher than their toughness, the navigator's wounds are calculated according to their willpower. Mind over matter is very interesting. Enemies affected by the navigator's ability suffer a stacking -10 penalty to the next resistance test from navigator's powers. If the navigator's perception is higher than their agility, their dodge is calculated using perception instead. So you need mind over matter and path unscathed, right? That's just straightforward. Whenever the navigator uses a navigator's ability, veil degradation is reduced by 1. So we're kind of like an anti-psyker for the purposes of the veil. Navigator heals 5 wounds at the beginning of every turn and gains +1 additional wound for every navigator talent taken. The heal increases by +1 for every creature killed in between the navigator's turns. Enemies moved by the navigator's ability suffer 5 damage at the end of movement. This damage is increased by +2 for every cell the enemy moves. Whenever the enemy fails a resistance test against the navigator's powers, attacks against them gain 20 +2 times perception bonus critical hit chance, so 30% critical hit chance, effect stacks but is reset by crit. Till the end of combat, enemies damaged by the navigator suffer an additional +5 from all attacks of opportunity and cannot dodge them. While under the effect of any navigator power, enemies have their armor reduced by 2 times navigator's willpower bonus. Okay, this reduction is increased by the devastating parameter of the navigator staff but does not stack. Allies that are targeted by the navigator's abilities gain a +5 to all resistance checks against warp effects caused by demons, psychic powers, navigator powers, etc. until the end of combat. Unnatural Allure. Navigator gains +5 to fellowship, an additional +1 to fellowship for every navigator talent or navigator power taken. We probably want that as well. Allies that are targeted by a navigator's power gain +10% armor. This additional armor is reduced by the amount of veil degradation to a minimum of +0% and increased by the infusing of the currently equipped navigator's staff. What is infusing? Allies that become targets of the navigator's powers gain bonuses to all their characteristics equal to the infusing parameter at the end of the navigator's next turn. Okay. Guide of Souls. Navigator starts all turns, including extra turns, with +3 additional movement points. The first ally targeted each turn by the navigator with a single target ability gains the same amount of additional movement points. That's a lot. Mind over matter seems really good. Not only do you get to do your resistance checks with willpower, which is our best stat, you then also get to calculate your health with willpower, which is our best stat. Yeah, I'll take that. Thanks. Okay, choose a talent. So you could choose another navigator one. However, you could also now choose officer talents, which are another new thing. So this makes officer abilities longer range. Increase resolve by +3. Whenever an ally uses a heroic act, the ally gains temporary wounds. Whenever the officer uses an ability on an ally, the ally gains a bonus to their perception and ballistic skill equal to 4. Why 4? Because it's based on fellowship. Okay. Bonuses stack, but half the stacks rounded up are lost at the end of the target's turn. Personal oversight. Whenever the officer targets an ally with an action, an ability, or an attack, that ally's resolve is increased by +1 until the end of the officer's next turn. This effect stacks and is not prolonged until the end of the officer's next. This effect stacks and is prolonged until the end of the officer's next turn each time it stacks. Cannot be prolonged past the officer's next turn. Whenever an ally starts a turn, including an extra turn adjacent to the officer, the ally gains additional movement. Okay. Allies affected by the officer's abilities gain a bonus to all resistance tests equal to 2 times the officer's willpower bonus. Okay. There's a lot of when you're affected by something, which is affected by something, which is affected by... It applies this, right? There's a lot of that kind of stacking language in here. If the target bring it down gains... Oh, sorry. The target bring it down gains +1 AP. If they finish their extra turn using this ability with 0 AP, they will suffer 5 direct damage. Okay. If they finish their extra turn using this ability with 0 AP, they will suffer 5 direct damage. Okay, I think it's meaning that you can use an additional AP during Bring It Down, but if you use it, you take 5 damage. And that means that fits with the name more than possible. You're effectively saying, if you're willing to take a little bit of damage, you can do a little bit more. Half of the bonus granted by voice of command remains until the end of combat. This bonus does not stack with itself or if the bonus is granted by voice of command, but does count as an officer ability for the purposes of other talent effects. Okay, so that would then mean that you can have all your effects on permanently if you can just do it voice of command once. Okay, I understand. This just feels like there's a lot of steps. Also, I forgot to be marking these as favorites. Okay, I like this one. Yeah, I think I'm fine. Oh yeah, that's good, especially with lasting impression. Heroism. Whenever a heroic act is used in combat by any character, the officer's next attack will cost 0 AP. Whenever the officer makes an attack, they gain +5 fellowship until the end of combat. Whenever the officer uses an officer archetype ability 2 times in one turn that does not grant an extra turn, they gain the Stand Witness effect. Stand Witness. The next officer archetype ability that does not grant an extra turn will also affect the officer. Also, what is Witness? Alright, that's just a term for something else. I understand. Armor of Contempt. Whenever an ally is affected by the officer's ability or talent that grants temporary wounds, the ally's armor is increased. This is like... My problem with this, right, is that it's stacking effects that have other conditional stacking effects. I can see how this could be really cool in combat. If you can master this, I can see where this would be really cool. But getting it all at once is a little bit much, right? So it's like, okay, so now I need to find an officer talent that gives temporary wounds. That temporary wound increases armor, right? Now, naturally, you could also ignore this entirely and just go, well, when I apply temporary wounds, I want them to take less damage. Therefore, it doesn't really matter. They're just going to take less damage. But it's like the, how do I know what I'm doing at any moment? Well, you have to go, well, I have this talent which does this talent that does this talent that does this, and this talent that does this, and they all stack into each other. It's just a bit like, okay, that's quite a lot. Allies under the effect of the officer's abilities gain a bonus to the... I think the other problem is that all the navigator skills do the same thing. So it's like, okay, you're actually getting like all of this of officer, but then navigator, and then navigator stuff doesn't... It like things applied by the officer, which are navigator ones, are not officer abilities, they're other stuff, and anyway. Allies under the effect of the officer's abilities gain a bonus to their weapon skill equal to 3 plus the officer's fel bonus and will deal plus 4 more damage on attacks of opportunity until the start of the officer's next turn. That is Fellowship, which is given the plus 4. This one seems good, along with lasting impression. Seize the initiative. At the beginning... Oh wait, do these need other things to unlock? Yeah. Air of Authority immediately grants momentum to the target equal to the target's resolve. Wounds are no excuse. Get back in the fight removes 1 fresh injury from the target and heals the target for officer's willpower bonus divided by 2 wounds for each condition removed by get back in the fight, including fresh injuries. A minimum of the officer's willpower bonus divided by 2 wounds is always healed even if no conditions are met. Targets that move gain 10% bonus to dodge and 10% bonus to cover efficiency until the end of the officer's next turn. Prepare for an assault. Break their ranks works as if there was one more enemy adjacent to the target. This allows the ability to be used on targets with no enemies adjacent to them. Steady. Take aim also increases the damage of the next ranged attack by 2% for each cell between the attacker and the target. Seize the initiative. At the beginning of combat, the officer gains an extra turn. During this turn, they can only use officer archetype abilities. The officer gains plus 10 willpower and plus 10 fellowship when they have less than 50% of their maximum wounds remaining. They also gain additional plus 10 willpower and additional plus 10 fellowship after using any officer ability on a target with less than 50% wounds for 1 round. These 2 sets of bonuses stack with each other but cannot stack with themselves. The officer can only have up to plus 20 willpower and plus 20 fellowship granted by this talent at any time. Okay. Whenever the officer's ability moves any target, the officer gains movement points equal to half the distance target moved. Whenever the officer's ability grants action points to an ally, that ally also gains plus 1 to all characteristics. Plus 1? Okay. These are all common, so we can skip them. Okay. Now we get these. So these are all navigator ones, which we literally just read. We love this one, Path Unscathed. Let's see what else we have. I mean, I do like the Recovering Wounds one, actually. I think that's pretty good. Whenever they fail a resistance test against Navigator's power, attacks against them gain critical hit chance. Quite nice. Until the end of combat, enemies damaged by Navigator suffer an additional plus 5 damage from all attacks of opportunity and cannot dodge them. That's kind of cool. Right. That's fine. Yeah, that's probably fine. Yeah, that's pretty good as well. Veil of Protection. Allies that are targeted by the Navigator's power gain 10% armor. Okay, let's go with something like that. Okay, given that we can take Navigator ones under common talents, then instead I should take something like... I think Lasting Impression is good, because then it allows you to get a bunch of other bonuses off of that. Yeah, let's use Lasting Impression. Okay, Lasting Impression. Then, I want to take Willpower, because Willpower is by far our most important stat. Now we get an ability. Okay, so we have Navigator abilities, which are not Psychic abilities. Well, are not Psyker abilities. And then we have these. So get back in the fight. The officer encourages an ally who immediately recovers from burning, bleeding, toxin, and stunned effects. If the target is under the effective voice of command, they also gain 2 times the officer's willpower bonus temporary wounds. Air of Authority. The officer increases an ally's resolve by 2 plus officer's resolve divided by 2 until the end of combat. If the target is under the effect of voice of command, they will start their next turn with 1 additional action point. Move. The officer immediately grants an ally additional movement points equal to the fel bonus. If they're under the voice of command effect, it ignores attacks of opportunity until the officer's next turn. Break their ranks. This ability can only target allies who have enemies adjacent to them. Until the start of the officer's next turn, all melee attacks made by that target deal additional damage equal to the officer's fill bonus divided by 2 multiplied by the number of enemies adjacent to the target when this ability is used. If the target is under the effective voice of command, they immediately make an attack of opportunity against adjacent enemies, targeting the one with the lowest remaining wounds. Take aim. The target's next attack will ignore cover and will have double the effective distance. If the target is under the effective voice of command, the attack will ignore enemy dodge. Additionally, damage from this attack can be reduced below 30 plus 3 times fill bonus percent for any reason. That's quite nice as well. Glimpse of Fate. So we're getting into navigator abilities. Target gains 5 times Navigator's willpower bonus, which is currently 6, so that'd be 30% hit chance on the next attack, dodge, the next dodge, and all of that. So that's the one that we've read. Mend Reality requires you to have this, but that decreases Veil Degradation. Reveal the Reveal the Light allows you to buff willpower and toughness until the end of combat. I prefer Glimpse of Fate over that. Okay, this allows you the instant charge. This allows you to, move a target back to heal it as well. Navigator deals a bunch of damage to an enemy. That enemy must pass the willpower resistance test or become immobilized until the next turn. That then also, I think, allows you to get this one, which is Walking Nightmare or Held in My Gaze. Waking Nightmare is further down. Which is a bunch of damage to targets in a line fix and inflicts the soul burn effect. The target suffers 3 plus Navigator's willpower bonus damage at the start of their turn. At the end of their turn, they must pass a willpower test to remove the flames. When burning, psychers suffer additional damage each turn every time they use a psychic power, and demons every time they use an attack or use psychic powers. Scourge of the Red Tide relies on Immolate the Soul or Warp Curse Unleashed. Creates a 3x3 zone. Each creature that is in it enters it or begins a turn in it suffers from 1 plus Navigator's willpower bonus to 4 plus 2 times Navigator's willpower bonus damage. The zone remains for 3 turns, or until the Navigator casts it again. Waking Nightmare. It lowers willpower and toughness. This is kind of the other one of Reveal the Light. This is buff, this is nerf. Warp Curse Unleashed. The enemy becomes cursed until the end of combat. All incoming warp damage is increased by a bunch based on willpower, and other types of incoming damage are increased by 5 plus Navigator's willpower bonus percentage. Okay, I understand. If they start the turn at the start of their turn, the enemy close to them also becomes cursed. Okay, so you can spread increased warp damage, but you still have to actually do damage. Oh, and other types of incoming damage are increased. Yeah. So it would be increased by 11%. I see. That's kind of cool. Notch of Purpose. The Navigator designates a square. The enemy closest to the square immediately moves 4 cells towards it. If multiple enemies are the same distance from that point, all of them move. The targets move even if they are stunned or immobilized. Point of Curiosity. All enemies in the 6-cell radius around the target point must pass a willpower resistance test or immediately move 3 cells towards it. Targets move even if they are stunned or immobilized. So that's basically just a longer range but less cells moved. Spot of Apathy. The Navigator creates a circle with a 3-cell radius. Any creature that is inside it enters it or ends their turn inside. Not under the effect of apathy makes a willpower resistance test. Failure applies the apathy effect to the creature. Target is immobilized. After 1 round passes, under the effect of apathy, the target must make a willpower resistance test. Success removes apathy. Failure stuns the creature for 1 round, removes apathy, and makes the creature immune to further effects of Spot of Apathy until the end of combat. Interestingly, if you pass, you can then just use it again. If they don't pass, then they are immune until the end of combat. Kind of interesting. All units in a 3x3 zone must pass a willpower resistance test or immediately move out of the zone, even if they are stunned or immobilized. This movement triggers attacks of opportunity from allies that pass the test or are outside the zone. Touch of Anger. All enemies in a 1-cell radius around target point must pass a willpower resistance test. Those who fail, or even if even if they are stunned or immobilized, immediately gain an extra turn where they attack their allies. Every time an enemy becomes the target of this navigator power, again, during the same combat, they gain stackable plus 20 bonus to willpower resistance tests against it. Okay, I think I liked a Glimpse of Fate. I quite like the stacking buff. I think that's pretty good. And then I think Mend Reality is also pretty good. And I think the other things that lead from it, yeah, they're also pretty good. So I'm going to take Glimpse of Fate, and we'll see how that goes. Right. This one's easy. I'm going to take this one. If Perception is higher than Agility, Dodge is calculated using Perception instead. Gives you a ton more dodge. Also, what's nice about both of these is it effectively says, okay, I no longer care about toughness. I no longer care about agility. I don't need to put any points in either of these ever. These are just dead as characteristics for us, which is great because it means we can specialize. Right. Here. Well, whenever the officer makes an attack, they gain 5 fellowship until the end of combat. I do like the additional bonus on resistance tests. Okay, whenever you use an ability on an ally, whenever they target an ally with an action, the ally's resolve is increased. Allies under the effect of the officer's abilities gain a bonus to the weapon skill equal to this and will deal more in attacks of opportunity. Yeah, this is what we want. So that's going to give everyone a bonus on weapon skill equal to 7 if they have effect of an officer's ability, which Voice of Command counts as, and Voice of Command lasts until the end of combat. Yes, this is what I'm going with. I don't know if this is good, but that's what we're going with here. And then here, we don't care about int ones. We don't care about... We probably care about fellowship ones. There's none of these are based off of willpower, right? Yeah, there's one based off perception, which is awareness, which we can't... Well, we could take. But I think this is the best one because everyone else is god-awful at it. Yeah, so persuasion or commerce would be good. We're actually better at commerce, so let's take persuasion. As in, us as in our current party as a whole is better at commerce. So let's do that. Okay. Next. Finest Hour. What are we going to take here? During the extra turn, target deals plus damage. Love plus damage. Don't plus how much? I don't know. Damage. Okay. Until the end of combat, the target gains the effect of Voice of Command. The target of Finest Hour gains more bonuses. All negative effects are immediately removed from the target. Until the officer's next turn, the target cannot die. Target gains temporary wounds until the end of combat. The target of Finest Hour gains more bonuses. During their extra turn, any kill made by the target restores 1 AP and 1 MP. Up to fell bonus times. Okay. Target redirect the ability of remaining AP and MP to another target. I quite like this one. I like the temporary wounds. But I feel like removing all negative effects is quite nice. So we're going to take that one. I think all negative effects is like... That's pretty good. Here, well, I guess I'll take commerce. This seems like the obvious choice. Unless I want to take awareness, which I could take. Adira is pretty good at that, though, apparently. Then I'm going to take fellowship, because that's a good set. Like, that's kind of like our second skill. Although, I mean, I could take perception to increase our perception bonus, obviously. But I think that we need to push our fellowship up, because that's one reason that we're using this. We might use this character because we don't really have a character who has any fellowship. Somebody was wondering in the comments why we would ever use... Or, like, who we would take out for Cassia and why, right? Because our current party seems like it's pretty good in terms of, like, what it covers from a story perspective. I'm thinking that with the fellowship that Cassia has, I think the use case for her, for us, is to take her to places that we think are not going to be dangerous. Like, for instance, when we go to Footfall, which I don't know when we go there, but it was in the alpha for this game. I remember there being a lot of walking around and not a lot of combat, right? There was a lot of dialogue sections where you were trying to solve things via dialogue. I think that would be a great place to take Cassia, because then we can use our commerce and our persuasion. Like if we're going to a trading hub, for instance, like that kind of place, you might take Cassia because you can use our commerce and our persuasion to get things that you want. If you're going into some kind of cultist den, on the other hand, you might not want to take Cassia because she's not really providing you, necessarily, from a story perspective, that same benefit. I don't know. It's just a thought. But, yeah. I think that is kind of the use case, and then you would take out somebody based upon who you think is going to be least useful in that situation. I don't know who it would be, but, you know, whoever you think is going to be least useful or least interesting. Right. Here. What are these ones? Ranger is increased. Officer's resolve is increased. Whenever the officer uses an ability on an ally, that ally gains bonus perception and ballistic skill equal to 4. But we don't currently have officer abilities really right now, so let's hold off on that. Or I mean, we have some, but like we don't have the same number that you might want. I do like at the beginning of combat that you gain an extra turn, which allows you to use officer abilities. Like get your buffs in as early as possible. I also like you gain +5 to fellowship, an additional +1 to fellowship for every navigator talent and or navigator power taken. Because that gives us an immediate +9 extra to fellowship, because it was +5, right, without it? Yes, that gives us 9 extra fellowship. I think that seems good. Yeah. Then I can take even more fellowship. Yeah, just go crazy on fellowship right now. Alright, that seems good. What's this? Are we on choose an ability? We are. Maybe we'll choose an officer ability so we can have an officer ability. While they are under the effect of voice of command, they also gain temporary wounds. And that's quite useful. That basically gives us the ability to be like, hey, you, stop taking negative effects and also gain temporary wounds. That's quite nice. Resolve is quite nice as well. Starting the turns of extra action points is good. Immediately grants an ally additional movement points equal to fell bonus. Kind of cool. Let's maybe get back in the fight. I think that one seems good from a buff perspective. A lot of this is just guesswork and like, well, that seems alright, I guess. It seems that that might be cool. Right. Just seeing what else we've got here. Yeah, not that right now. I like the healing each round. And I think that could be very good for us. Whenever Navigator uses a Navigator's ability, Veil Degradation is reduced by 1. Okay. Okay. Every enemy that the Navigator has in their line of sight is its dodge and a hit chance reduced by 2 times Navigator perception bonus, which will be 6 in theory at some point, so it'll be -12. I think that's pretty good. It just means that we're going to take less damage as a team. Alright. Here, we could now maybe take... just seeing what we got here. We can give ourselves an extra turn at the start of combat. Yeah, bonus to perception and ballistic skill is fine as well. I do like the +1 to resolve, so we get heroic acts quicker. I think this one's pretty good. All allies affected by officers' abilities, which includes voice of command, gain the bonus to resistance tests. Sure. Let's take that, and then I'm going to take commerce again. That would give us quite a lot of commerce, but I think that's still good. Here, I want to take perception, which pushes perception up to 60. Then, I want to take probably one more of these, or maybe not, or something. I don't know. We could just take something like nimble. Just try not to die. Could also go for some of these. I like the extra action points, I guess. It's a little bit odd to use. Never the navigator uses the navigator's ability, veil degradation is reduced. I'm going to take the healing. I like it. It seems good. Right, we'll take the healing. And then we apply. So I now have 61 fellowship, 65 willpower, 60 perception. Okay. 51 health, which is quite a lot of health, really. I mean, like, we're on 37. It's actually the highest on the team. Like, yeah, that gives her more health than Abelard, which is kind of cool. I definitely think that that's got some benefits to it. Got very good stats in terms of commerce and persuasion, which are things that we currently have nothing in. So that's good. Also gives us a little coercion. I get the feeling that she's probably going to be competing with this guy for being in the party. So the fact that they have a little overlap is probably fine. Because she's probably going to be in when we want to... I guess, yeah, from a combat perspective, she's kind of buffing people and he's kind of buffing people. So they might be against each other, but they might also both be in combat and we end up with two people buffing. I don't know. But I don't think it's too bad to have a little crossover. It's not like the crossover here is even because, you know, we put a lot of stuff into coercion. The crossover is purely just because fellowship is like a good stat on her and it's a terrible stat on him. Right? He just has it because he has it. Right? He has it because it's an archetype advancement, not because of anything else. So, I think that's fine. I think we have a character now. We know roughly what she's doing. I mean, I say roughly because it is rough. We don't know exactly, but yeah, I think it's okay. I think we have a plan, and after all that, well, I think we're ready to end. Oh, actually, one thing I want to check. Yep, no biography. Cool. I think we're ready to end the episode. Thank you very much for watching. Next time, I think we're going to go to the prison planet, because on the prison planet, there should be, like, some kind of prisoners revolt to put down with a cousin of the rogue trader in the sector. That seems good. Anyway, I'm going to end the episode there. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.